Okay. Today is Monday, March 24th, 2019, and this is the Kubernetes CSI implementation meeting. Let's go down our topics here. First, PR that needs attention. I think this was something Patrick put out last time. This is to make CSI Test follow the strict naming thing. I think, who's he waiting? I guess I can review this. That's fine. I think last time we discussed the PR was making the mock driver fail if the CO created the staging directory, and I asked him to add an optional option to not do that so that we can actually use the mock driver in Kubernetes tests. So I'll see if he's updated that. The next item is, this is just a reminder from the last meeting. We probably want a how-to page for snapshots on the main Kubernetes docs page. Shing, would it help if I just opened an issue for this and assigned it to you?
Yeah, sure. So I do have a question on this. So should we add examples, like any YAML files, examples on how to really do a create? If that's the case, so those files will be under this docs repo, right? It's not going to reference back to our CSI docs, right?
Probably not. So okay, as an example here, we had a how-to page on how to use the storage object protection feature, and
okay,
it's under tasks. So this isn't concepts.
Okay.
This is tasks, which is like a specific sequence of steps to do something.
Okay.
And here, I think it just embeds the YAMLs directly into the page. So that's probably what we want to follow here.
Okay.
Yeah, and maybe one of the steps will be like bring up the host path driver, and maybe there you can actually point like the host path driver instructions.
Okay, host path driver instructions for in CSI docs?
In our repository on like how to bring up the host path driver.
Okay.
But I think
that will be in our, but that's in our the CSI on the Kubernetes CSI, right?
Yeah. There. So I think that the purpose is that like this page is supposed to teach users how to use some feature, right? And the part about bringing up the driver is not the important part, right? The important part is once you have a driver, how do you use the snapshot objects?
Okay.
So I think the for like the main stuff, like how to use snapshots, that we can probably embed directly in here. For the stuff that's not as important, like how to bring up a CSI driver, we can point to something else.
Okay.
All right, cool.
Okay.
Do you have any more questions on this?
No.
Okay, cool. Next up, CSI test. What should we tag the next CSI test as? I think, Patrick, given all of these reasons here, I think a 2.0 makes sense.
Yeah, I think so too.
Especially because like it won't be able to compile, or you will probably have compile failures.
Yeah, it depends a bit how it's used. If people just use it to get the binary, they won't notice. But some people like myself, we embed it actually, and then it can lead to compile errors.
Yeah, I agree. In that case, the 2.0 makes sense. What still remains before we want to cut a new CSI test?
There is one open pull request, and it's a bit larger than I was expecting. So I still need to test that actually with the host path driver, for example. And doing so for some of the other pull requests showed that, for example, the host path driver still wasn't actually passing CSI sanity testing. There was a missing error check that tripped up one test case. So one of my goals currently for the CI is to also automatically run the CSI sanity tests against host path driver, both when updating the driver and when updating the sanity test suite.
Okay.
So that we always know whether a new test not just works with a mock driver, that's what's currently being tested, but also with some other CSI driver.
Okay, sure. That makes sense to me. All right, thanks. Next topic is the versioning discussion that we had. So on Friday, I had a talk with Jordan about this, and I tried to summarize what I discussed with him in the version 2 of the proposal. So please take a look at that when you get a chance. I think one last miscellaneous topic that came up from Kevin, at least in the Slack. I don't think he is able to make it to this meeting. Is I guess his concern about having this self-registration thing for the cluster driver registrar. I think his question is like, can we, let me bring up his thing. I think he had a concern that this is not, self-registration is not really something that we encourage.
I was also a bit concerned that the mechanism that is used in the cluster driver registrar isn't really very resilient. Self-registration might work. Deregistration, that was both broken, and even with the fixes that I'm currently proposing in the pull request, it basically relies on an orderly shutdown of that sidecar. And if anything goes wrong, you end up with a CSI driver object that's still in the cluster, even though the driver is not currently running. So I agree that this doesn't seem like a full solution.
His suggestion was that, like, with a typical pattern with like deploying something with Helm, what he sees is that just the Helm chart creates the object necessary.
Yeah, I also would, and I presumably if you do deregister, it removes it. To me, that looks like a saner approach.
Here, let me copy paste. I don't think he's here, but I'll just copy paste what he said in the chat. But anyway, yeah, so basically he brought up this concern if, is self-registration something that we actually want to support? I think the main benefit that we have right now is with the cluster driver registrar is that we can automatically query the driver for some of the fields that we set, although not all of them. So that's a little funky too. But then there are other concerns about permissions and privileges and that kind of thing. So I don't know if we want how much discussion we want to have on this, but I think we can like think about if the cluster driver registrar is something we actually want to support going forward, or should we just kind of drop it and just have drivers create their own CSI driver objects as part of the deployment manifests?
So given that I guess moving forward, the objects will be part of these objects are no longer CRDs, so that should be easier, I guess, to have them registered.
I mean, even as they were CRDs, it wouldn't have been difficult to just create the objects.
Yeah, I guess. Right. Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, that's something to think about. I asked Kevin to open the issue so we can continue discussing. So if you're interested, be on the lookout for that. All right. Going into our 114 tasks. I already have one. We've got moving the CSI objects to beta. So I think, Xing, you have one change outstanding for fixing the informer initialization.
Yeah, there's one error that I'm fixing now.
Okay.
So I will upload the PR soon. Yeah.
Awesome, thank you.
I may still, I will see up. Yeah, we still need to ping you after that because there's one test error. I don't know if it's going to go away after this, but I will let you know.
All right, sure. I still have a PR outstanding for topology beta. It's almost ready to go. I think there's one more backwards compatibility case that I think I might need to add to take care of. It also depends on our versioning discussion and exactly everything that we require for backwards compatibility. So it's semi-blocked on that. And then Jan, you have one document outstanding for the CSI docs. I think there were some, Sod left some comments, so.
Yeah, sorry I missed that.
Okay. All right, I think those are the three main, oh, I guess there's some other stuff. These are the three things currently in progress. Okay. Next up is inline volumes.
Yeah. So as we agreed, I think Friday last week, it probably would be better to have a comprehensive way of skipping device mount for inline volume. So I'm in the process of working on that now. And as far as trying to get it into in a subsequent minor release, I already gotten feedback from Jordan saying that probably not going to happen, but sure we'll try. We'll see. But that's where I am.
Okay. If it's looking unlikely to get into a 114 patch, should we revert the documentation change so that people don't try to use this?
Yes, I would say yes, because somebody's already somebody already open an issue against the inline. Who would reverse it? The document folks?
I think we can send the PR out, but just ping the docs and assign the.
Oh, they're just
yeah. I think 114 has not been like officially released yet, so I think we still have time to make docs updates.
Okay, I'll follow up on that and see who can take care of that.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Right.
Let me know if you need any help on this.
Absolutely.
Hey, I wanted to clarify something. So overall, CSI inline volume for ephemeral is in, but it was the first issue that was in the board that's kind of causing a problem.
Yeah, there's an issue in the code that's merged, but because because we got there late, it's an issue trying to get that fixed.
Yeah, I think basically the issue is a pretty big issue, which kind of makes the feature not functional at all.
I see.
So I think at this point, the best thing to do is just to not document it, so that people don't try to use it.
Right.
Got it.
All right. Thanks for the update. I think next up is resizing. I spoke to Hemant offline. I think he said it's in pretty good shape. So I think most of this is done and the remaining items can be considered for 115. Next up is migration.
Yeah, so Jan and David reviewed and merged the provisioner changes, so that's in now.
Okay.
And what's in progress is mainly the block support. And I'm starting to take a look at like potential migration support for inline volumes, which was why I was curious about the previous point. So I was just getting some context on it. And
okay.
Yeah, so David has oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh yeah, you can sync up with me because David and I discussed this design very thoroughly in detail.
Okay.
So basically we made it so that the migration of inline persistent volumes is not dependent on the CSI inline ephemeral volumes feature.
Got it. Okay. I see.
So yeah, we can I can sync up with you offline to like go over the actual deep design and implementation details. I think I understand it fairly well. Oh, okay. All right. So I guess for migration for 114, we're basically done. Is that correct?
Yes.
Do we have all our documentation?
Yep, the docs are in. Just reviewed them. So
and
for the future
did we
flag,
need docs? Did we need docs on the CSI side? I don't think so.
Probably not, because
okay.
it's just like alpha at the moment. So
okay. That's right, because you don't need to do anything on the CSI side to go through migration. So I think that's fine. Okay.
Yep.
I guess the only thing is you need to run we need to cut a new external provisioner.
Exactly.
That's the only outstanding thing. And we will do that anyway because we have a bunch of other stuff that we need to cut. Okay, I'm gonna mark this as complete because I think at least for 114, because everything we have is done for that. Next up is Rob Block. I think the only outstanding item here is we need Kubernetes CSI docs for it. I will sync up with Ben offline since he's not here. Scaling the external provisioner. Jan, do you have an update on this? I think you have one PR left.
Yeah, I have one PR left.
Okay. I just had some questions on it. So we'll continue.
Yep.
Cool. Thank you. Next up is the CI testing.
Yeah, I keep working on it. I did another revision based on some of the comments that you left. I'm still not convinced that we should rely on running just the end-to-end test suite that matches a certain Kubernetes version against that Kubernetes version. So for now, I'm sticking to the current approach where we use where each component specifies one E2E test suite that it's testing with, and that then gets applied to different Kubernetes versions. Because
I think if you can like make it configurable as to which E2E version you're using.
It is configurable, so if you want to have an end-to-end test, a job that overrides that can be done.
Yeah, I would prefer making it configurable because actually in my new V2 of the versioning thing, we're gonna have to have really a lot of different permutations of test configurations.
Okay, all of everything that's currently marked as a config variable is something that the brow config for a job can set as an environment variable. So all of that, everything that you see currently in the shell script is a default.
Okay, I would just my main thing is I would just move away from like hard coding version names in the variable. Right? Instead of saying 113 focus regex, I would just say the focus regex.
Yeah, if you want, you can have jobs that then set it. I personally wouldn't set up the CI this way.
The problem is that every time we release a new Kubernetes, we're going to have to update so many things if we hard code version environment variables into the infrastructure. Like it should be two separate layers. There's one that's configuration, a layer that's configuration, and then one that's just a framework that can take any configuration.
Yeah, I think we do have a basic disagreement on how the jobs get configured then. And my goal was to make it so that the CI itself is dumb. It just knows a very few things about what's supposed to be in a job, like Kubernetes version, perhaps which tests to run, not the specific list, but the intent, like parallel, serial, alpha. And then the component knows what is suitable in that particular environment. Because then when we update what's supposed to be tested, it automatically gets tested as part of a pull request that updates the configuration.
No, I think in the test infra, there's already a script that can auto-generate the configuration.
Yes,
so
but then
anytime that we add a new version, we can still update the test infra script to generate the correct config.
Yeah, but then you don't know whether that actually works with your components. You then have a huge set of new jobs that have never been actually tested with the things that you are testing.
I think that's fine. We can just have it when we enable the tests, we enable it, off or, non-blocking by default, and we enable it and then we see what we need to fix.
Yeah.
Ideally, like once we have a canary job, right, then theoretically adding a new release to it, like an official release job to it, I wouldn't expect errors if the canary one was passing.
Yeah, I'm not convinced, but we can still move back and forth between the two models. We just need to remove the version variables, move them into the brow job instead, or vice versa. So for the sake of moving forward, my proposal is that we keep it as is, because now I actually can make changes in a pull request, try out the change without having to modify the test infra first. So at least for prototyping, the current approach is much more suitable.
Yeah, I agree for prototyping, this is probably easier, but I think once we actually have something working and then we want to keep on maintaining and updating it, like separating the version configuration and flat focus and skip configurations will be simpler.
We can try that out. I mean, right now, the mechanism is the same. It's just the location of where to put those settings that is different. And we can try out both approaches and see which one works actually better in practice.
That sounds good.
Okay.
Cool, thank you. All right, next up is consistent sidecars. So the leader election change has merged, and I guess we now need to just propagate that to all the sidecars.
Yeah, I've not been able to work on this for the last week because I've been traveling. But I'm trying to delegate this to as many new contributors as possible, because the PRs are like the library is already in, so they just have to use the library and all the PRs. So right now that's what I'm trying to do. But if I can't get any new contributors to pick this up, I'll start working on this this week.
Okay, no problem. Thank you. I think one thing is for the external resizer. I think in order to import this in the external resizer, we need to increment the CSI spec version in CSI Libutils.
Oh, I see. Because the
resizer uses resizer uses CSI spec 1.1. And I think the CSI Libutils currently uses 1.0, so we'll have to update that.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, cool. Thank you.
I can do that today.
Cool. Other than that, have we finished this yet? I think there was one change outstanding for external snapshotter to use the probe stuff.
I think I reviewed it and gave some feedback.
Yeah, I'll look at the comments today.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. All right. That's that. Drivers, we don't have anyone really working on that. Okay. And then the remainder of our 114 work is to update all the documentation. So it looks like there's already one PR outstanding to update our host path driver example. And then we'll have to, I'll ping Saad on the drivers table, and I need to start working on the topology stuff. So that's everything we still have remaining for 114. I guess we're still out of time, so I will skip the 115 planning again until the next meeting. If you have any items for 115 that you want to work on, please add it to this list. All right. Is there any other topics that anyone wants to talk about? All right, then we will end the meeting. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.